Obviously, we need to take the green tiles we've created so far and duplicate them around the perimeter of the design. And that means rotating. In this movie, I'm going to show you two ways to rotate inside of Illustrator: the bounding box, which is the easy way, and the rotate tool, which is the more powerful way. I've saved my progress as row of green tiles.ai. I'm going to right-click using my black arrow tool here inside the document, and I'm going to choose Hide Guides to get rid of them for a moment. I'm also going to turn off my image just to sort of clean up the screen. And you do that by clicking on this little rectangle as opposed to the eyeball. It serves the same purpose, by the way. It goes ahead and turns the image off. And then I'll go ahead and click in the upper right corner of the drawing layer in order to select the contents of that layer. If I were using the bounding box, and that would mean, of course, pressing Control-Shift-B or Command-Shift-B on the Mac in order to bring that bounding box up on screen, it's pretty obvious that these handles right there allow you to scale. But how in the world do you rotate? Well, you move your cursor slightly beyond any one of those handles, and then you drag, and that's all there is to it. And you can see that you're always rotating around the center of the selection, by the way, when you're using the bounding box. Also notice that we've got this little heads-up display, that gray box that's telling us that, in my case, I've rotated this selection negative 107 degrees and some change. If you want to constrain the angle of your rotation to 45 degrees, some multiple of 45 degrees that is, then you press and hold the Shift key. And as long as you have the Shift key down, you're going to constrain the angle of that rotation as you see me doing here. The problem with using the bounding box is, A, you have to get so close to the handle. I'm not a big fan of that, so it's kind of hard to get your cursor in the right location. And B, you can't control the transformation origin, that is the reference point. What if you want to rotate, for example, around this anchor point right there? Well, in that case, you need to switch to the rotate tool. I'm going to press Control-Shift-B or Command-Shift-B on the Mac to turn off the bounding box. And then I'll switch to the rotate tool. It's located right here. You can also get to it by pressing the R key. You can see by default that reference point, the little sort of cyan target there, is located in the center of the selection. So if I begin dragging, I have the exact same experience as I do when using the bounding box. And sure enough, I can even press the Shift key as I drag to constrain the angle of my rotation to a multiple of 45 degrees. If you want to set a specific transformation origin, that is, you want to change the location of the reference point, then you click at a location like so. So I just moved that target to that anchor point right there. And then when you begin dragging, you will rotate around that point, which is very useful, and we'll see it's absolutely essential for the operation that we'll be trying to pull off in the next movie. Another very important point to keep in mind when you're using this tool: if you drag close to the origin point, like I am here, so my cursor is just a pica away from it or so, then you're going to rotate very, very quickly. If you want to perform a more nuanced rotation, then just move your cursor very far away as possible from that origin point, and you're going to gain a lot more control. And basically, these little tricks work across all of the transformation tools. So anything that works with the scale tool is going to work with the rotate tool as well. For example, if I want to rotate numerically, then I double-click on the rotate tool here inside the toolbox. That brings up the rotate dialog box, and I can specify an angle such as 15 degrees, let's say, bearing in mind, of course, that positive values such as I'll enter 60 degrees are going to rotate the selection in a counterclockwise direction. If you want to rotate in a clockwise direction, then you want to enter a negative value. That's just the way things work. More importantly, I think here, is that when you double-click on the tool, that resets the reference point to the very center of the selection. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of here. What if you want to specify a reference point? Then you press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac. That gives you a little ... after the cursor, as you can see here. And then you click, for example, on this anchor point. Although it doesn't have to be an anchor point, you can Alt-click or Option-click anywhere you like. And notice when you do, you go ahead and set the reference point at that Alt or Option-click location, and you bring up the Rotate dialog box. And then you can specify an angle. For example, I'll go ahead and rotate the selection 80 degrees. And you can either click the copy button to create a copy of your selection, or you can just click OK in order to rotate the selection itself. So those are your options for rotating all sorts of objects inside of Illustrator. In the next movie, we'll put the rotate tool to work.